It's not just enough to attract and bring in new talent. What are we doing to make sure we're developing that talent and not just the new talent? What about the talent that's already in the pipeline right now?
If we can take students to where the action is, the lights come on, and they don't only just see it as what a trade show is, but they start to see themselves in the trade show industry, and they start to go like, oh, so this is what a designer does, and this is what a project manager does, and I could actually do this, and I can feel the energy during a show.
Strong companies, lasting partnerships, powerful events. Welcome to the Experience Builders Podcast.
Chris, we're excited to welcome back Sachel. How are you, man?
Hey, I'm doing awesome. Thanks for having me. Love this time.
Yeah, absolutely. We're doing a quick short here all about workforce development, experiential learning, and the day of giving. We'll get into more at the end. But Chris, EDPA president, we know that one of the huge initiatives that you have for the industry is getting the workforce back up to where we're not on a deficit. No small task. So why is that important? How is that going to happen?
Well, first of all, Satchel, great to see you. Thanks for coming back. I always love, I'm taking notes on whatever fashion statement you make because you're always that guy for me. So congratulations on your promotion in the Space Force. But listen, workforce development is nobody's a stranger to that subject. We have been focused for 2 years on the need to repopulate our industry. I had a conversation with Satchel recently, and he reminded me of something I don't think we've spent enough time on. And that is, it's not just enough to attract and bring in new talent. What are we doing to make sure we're developing that talent and not just the new talent? What about the talent that's already in the pipeline right now? So one of our most successful educational programs at EDPA is with Bemidji State University. Satchel's a guy. He's figured out how to create the quintessential academic program for not just designers, but I know how hard he's working on a project management track, and that's in development. But when we were talking, he said, we've got the curriculum, we've got design contests, we have guest speakers and keynotes that come in, we have people that Zoom in, but without question, the number one thing that we see just light up my student base is when we take field trips and they get to go out and actually see the creative work actually happening, right? They get to go to a show like a Pack Expo or an exhibitor live, or they just will jump in their caravan van and they'll go to McCormick Place for a big show. And they get to even talk to the exhibitors and the people that are using it. It all comes to life. And he goes, but the problem is institutions don't have budgets for that. And I go, okay, I hadn't thought of that. He goes, and you look at the students who are already so taxed. We see it on the news all the time with tuition and room and board and food and all the other ancillary costs. This is another thing. He said, so I love that we're here on chapter 1 and 2 as an industry trying to repopulate the industry. Satchel's reminding us there's a chapter 5, 6, and 7, and that is how do we, he's an apple orchard and we're not planting new trees. He's got trees and we're trying to accelerate the ripening of the fruit that he can then ship to market quicker. So I love that. And I thought he was telling me about this thing he started a couple years ago called the Giving Day or the Day of Giving. And it's much like Legislative Action Day for us when we're going to go out and engage with our government elected officials on Capitol Hill. It's one day a year. We go up, we see him in person. It's very important to do. It's very impactful. He's looking for one day a year that those in the industry that care about workforce development might consider contributing to a cause, a fund that will help bring students to the front lines. We all have apprentice programs, Khalil, and we have internships, right? And we have things we do. This is a lower cost way to make sure that these young people get hands-on and they get They get to be doers and not just academic participants. So I love that was an idea. I thought this ties into the broader workforce development initiative, which has multiple tentacles. So I asked Satchel to come on the show and maybe talk for a minute about that event, when it is, and how our listeners might be able to contribute and participate.
Yeah. Satchel, I know we're going to talk about the Day of Giving, and I'll let you get into the details. First, I just want to understand the value of that experiential learning from your side. How is it different for the students when they get to go to these events in person and see not just theory in the room or hear someone speak that's a guest speaker, but what is it like when they're actually at the events, and what's the impact of it?
Yeah, so there's multiple things that these industry field trips really help with. Again, thanks for having me on the show. I love you guys, love what you're doing. And but I have a class about trade shows and trade show design and about event planning and project management around kind of the trade show world. And when you have an 18-year-old student or 19-year-old student and you start talking about trade shows, they're kind of like, what are you talking about? And I can spend considerable amount of time of like, oh, do you know like CES or SEMA or ConEg or pick the show, right? And they still don't necessarily get it. But if we get in university vans, we drive to McCormick Place, and we go to, last fall we went to RSNA, for example, and we got to see the exhibits be set up before showtime, and the students got to see the forklifts running around, and they got to see the exhibits being built, and it provides them invaluable experience about buildability in that case. But then the next day, the carpet's all rolled out. There's aisle carpet, and the lights are on, and they get to see showtime. And they come back to me and they're like, "So, Satchel, you were trying to explain to me what a trade show was. Why didn't you just explain this to me?" And it's really hard to do that in a classroom setting. And it's really important that we have the classroom and that we have the labs that we have, but it's really important to go to where the action is. And it's one of the things that there are certain companies that have been really supportive in this effort. For example, Hill and Partners has allocated funds to help with these industry field trips. And without organizations like that, it makes it hard to do these types of things. But if we can take students to where the action is, the lights come on, and they don't only just see it as what a trade show is, but they start to see themselves in the trade show industry, and they start to go like, oh, so this is what a designer does, and this is what a project manager does. And, I could actually do this, and I can feel the energy during a show. It's one of those things that is very difficult to explain, the pulse or the heartbeat of a trade show event, until you're actually there and you can see the people feeling alive, and you can feel crowds coming to life. And that these are really meaningful events for where commerce occurs, and where learning occurs, and where marketing occurs, and where people have fun and celebrate their community of practice. And so when students see that, even if it's RSNA, a radiology show, they can see how these events kind of happen. This fall, we brought students to SEMA, which is a much more exciting show for students than maybe RSNA. But so we got to see the setup again. And then the day of when showtime hit, there's music, there's life to these events. And getting students to these types of events is so, so important.
And you drive the students there, Satchel?
So when we go to Chicago, we drive. We're planning in the spring here, we're going to be going to Exhibitor Live in Nashville, and we're planning on driving to Nashville. It's about a 16-hour drive. We can get to Chicago in about 9 hours. We're trying to make those dollars last as long as possible. And so, it doesn't necessarily need to be a huge contribution, even if you want to sponsor like a meal or something. That is just really, really, really appreciated. And
Well, that's a great. Can I ask you? So you drive 6 or 7 hours to Chicago.
Yeah.
You got first time students that get to see that for the first time. What's the drive home sound like I mean, after the energy and the aha moment, what do you hear them? I mean, is there anybody that's going, this is definitely what I want to do for a living? I had no idea. I mean, what kind of stuff are
Yeah,
you
that's
hearing?
it. I mean, I had no idea. Is just, and you go into these. One of the things we try to plan for if we go to Las Vegas is we'll do like an industry tour at an exhibit house or something like that. And they get to see the different departments, and then they get to see how it all kind of fits together. The almost like the design, the project management, and then you go out into the shop and you see all the storing of exhibits and the building of exhibits, and you see the AV stuff, and they can start to see this puzzle that is really hard to manage if you haven't seen it come together, and then they start to see their fit in it, and they can say, I really love the large format graphics and I'd love to see myself doing that, or I love what the interactive kind of department is doing with all the on-screen digital components, or I really like the 3D side. And then you have students that love kind of the planning or the project management side. And so we're bringing students that are learning about this in the classroom and starting to see their fit. And the chatter on the way back is so fun, and it makes us feel like we're onto something. Does that make sense? Because like if we think
Absolutely.
about the body, like we have the curriculum and we have faculty and we have the brick and mortar of the buildings, and so that's like the body. But if we can have like one hand on partnerships, and that's industry partnerships, it's academic partnerships. Industry partners are like EDPA and IFAS, and then the academic partners are like 2-year schools, because students that are learning stuff at 2-year schools, we want them to come to Bemidji State and learn about exhibit design or learn about event planning and project management. And then the other hand, if we can have it on like the future and thinking about tools like AI, but also thinking about how we can get the students to where the action is. Like that's how I feel like our hand is on the future here at Bemidji State and in higher ed. And there's a lot of skepticism in higher ed right now. But one of the things that Bemidji State's doing a great job of is having our hand on industry partners and having a hand on the future, and just really trying to get students there. And when students are there, industry comes in and they get to kind of be a part of the experience. So if we go to Vegas and Chris meets up with us there and he gets to walk around and he gets to share his knowledge, he's like, man, I really am buying into what's going on at Bemidji State. And because he's an active participant in the curriculum and what the students are learning, and he gets to share his world and hopefully the students' world, because a lot of students fall into this industry. And one of the ways that people fall into the industry is there's a time of whether they like it or not. And a lot of our graduates have already been sold on the industry. And so they're already excited, and
Well,
they're ready to hit
look,
the ground.
I know we got to get you back to class, but my question is, how? So what is giving, the day of giving? When is that? How do the listeners that are tuning in right now learn more about that if they want to participate?
Yeah, so on February 20th, there's going to be a series of links. If you go to the Bemidji State website, we'll try to get a lot of stuff out on social media. And it's an opportunity for alumni that have been on these industry field trips and industry to partner with Bemidji State to help make these experiences as high impact as possible. And so February 20th is the day of giving. And we're hoping that industry members are willing to see what we're trying to build here at Bemidji State and help build the future workforce of this industry, and just take it to another level.
You know what? If you can send us the link, we'll put that in the show notes. By the way, I've waited my whole life to say the phrase, we'll put that in the show notes. So,
Awesome.
Shauna Lee, are you listening? There's no Shauna Lee. I just wanted to say, act like I have an assistant there. But no, we want to do that. And when we drop the clips on this, we'll make sure that that's there. I would challenge our Experience Builder listeners. And I know a lot of you are diehard EDPA and passionate about workforce development. I love what you said. If you want to sponsor a dinner for the kids driving cross country, or a lunch, right? Or you want to put a couple of tanks of gas in the. Is there a nickname for the van? Do you guys have a name for like
In the vans, the old students know the van as the Travation. We've been doing these industry experiences for 20 years, and
All right.
it used to the old school. We used to rough it pretty hard when we were going on these trips, and now we get to take university vans, and but the Travation was a good time for students out there that remember. But these industry field trips are what it's all about.
Let me, just end on a positive note. You and I have been talking about, my company's talked about, we love, you and I've had an episode we talked about the importance of being willing to fail and how much you learn when you do that. So we talked about, said, can we do like, an award, $1,000 grant, or scholarship for, the Fearless Award or something and you started talking to me about this. And I said, would we be better off contributing to something like this fund? And you said, honestly, I think it'll be more impactful for people. So I'll start off right now by saying Crew XP will commit $1,000 to the Giving Day. We'll make that pledge. I don't think everybody has to match that. I think some of you, I would encourage to exceed that if that's what you want to do. My friends that are listening, I know who you are. But $100, $500, $200, whatever it is, it sounds like anything's going to just help you create a better, I call it experiential training experience. Get them out, hands-on doers. Everybody listening on this call knows how valuable that is, Sachel. So love what you're doing. Love that you're forward thinking and not just attracting new people. But this is about, man, it's like doing a pitch, a presentation, and you never get to pitch it. The field trip's the pitch. They get to go see it and see it when it wins and see what it looks like. And imagine if you get to tour the exhibit house that built it, or the freight company that shipped it, or you meet the labor company that installs it. All those Rubik's Cube pieces come together. So love that you're doing this. I would love to see a Giving Day become a thing in advocacy for our industry. Where one day a year we all pause and say, let's contribute to something meaningful. I know you want it to be Bemidji State. I'll say that, but somebody might have something local. So Bemidji State and you're local. How about I say that, Sachel?
Yeah.
So
thank you.
Thank you for coming in and talking to us about this. And Khalil, what else do we need to mention before we give
That's
everybody
it. Go to the show notes, give for Giving Day, and it's going to be hopefully a big event. Thanks for your commitment to it, Chris.
Yeah.
Sachel, thanks for joining us and sharing so much about the Day of Giving, but also for all that you do for the industry. Pleasure to have you on.
Amen.
Thank you very much. And if it doesn't, the Day of Giving is on that specific day, but we'll take a check at 365 days a year.
Look at you, Senator. Nice job. I see.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Appreciate you, man.
Take care, guys.
See you out there.
Thanks for listening to the Experience Builders podcast. Check out our website in the show notes or visit crewxp.com to learn more.